The next piece of technology we're going to talk about is the steamboat. Before this time period, we talked about the towpath and how boats were either human powered or pulled by animals or by sail. So if you remember, Christopher Columbus and the explorers all used sailboats that would use the wind that would pull them down towards the Gulf of Mexico and use the Gulf Stream and that sort of thing. Um, and boats were human powered, like rowboating, or as you saw in the last item, were pulled by animals. The steamboat is a new revolutionary piece of technology that used steam from burning fuel. So at first they burn wood, which creates steam to use for energy. Later on, they began using coal because coal burns hotter, it's stronger, it creates a much hotter fire to boil the water and cause steam to be created, and then push a propeller on the back and would push the boat. Some of them use propellers. They actually were more of these paddle boats, so it kind of would just spin around, and I'll show you that here in a minute. These are revolutionary because they do not rely on the weather. They could be much larger than some of the other ships. The ones based on animal power, you only could really build a ship so big, otherwise your animals would get tired too fast. Or you'd need to change out the animals, and animals only have so much capacity to carry. Whereas a steamboat could get actually larger. They move faster, they carry people and goods. You get a whole culture that builds up around the Mississippi River and riverboats. You end up with people on boats watching shows. You get people on boats basically taking cruises up and down the river. It kind of becomes a luxury item. You have a whole workforce that grows up around the steamboat. Some people live on the boats, and you have, again, it expands people being able to go farther and longer than they've ever been able to go before. And the main thing that's really important about the steamboat is the fact that it could go upstream instead of relying on having to go downstream and then walking. People like Abraham Lincoln grew crops out in the Midwest, and then they would build a raft, put it into the water on the Mississippi River. After loading their goods, they'd have to float it all the way down to the bottom to New Orleans, and once they got there, then they would sell their goods and sell the boat, their raft or whatever they built it out of, sell the lumber, and then they'd have to walk home, and it would take them a long time, or they'd have to take some of the money they bought and buy a horse, ride the horse back up. So the steamboat eliminates all of that. So instead of only going down and then having to walk home, now you could go down and then take a steamboat all the way back up the river, which is revolutionary for people during this period. So here is an example of a steam paddle wheelboat from Captain Alan Dunlap. This is a new one that they've built. You can see here, this is the smokestack where it's powering, they're burning the coal or some kind of fuel. Then it creates steam, and the steam pushes the piston in here in the back, and which then pushes the paddle, and the paddle pushes the boat. Now I know, in today's world, this is, not that fast. We think of this as really kind of a slow item, but this is incredibly speedy. You don't have to have an animal. You don't have to have human beings rowing like in ancient Rome. You don't have to do any of those things. Instead, you can just kind of relax and steer the boat as it goes up the river, which is just downright remarkable.